What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the HHA RYZ. HHA is known for making very rugged and very durable bow sights, and in late 2022 they dropped the RYZ. Now the RYZ has quickly become a very popular bow sight for those looking for multiple pins in the vertical orientation. Not only does it give you multiple yardage indicators, but it also greatly increases your overall sight picture. Now for me personally, I made the transition from horizontal pins to a vertical pin, and I will never go back. Now I've been a big fan of black gold sights before in the past, but the HHA RYZ has some very unique features that you will not find on some of the top competitors like black gold or Spott Hogg, and we will cover that in this video today. We will also talk about the specifications, the price, and then at the end of this video I will give you guys my overall thoughts and opinions and my intentions with the HHA RYZ. Now as far as the specifications go, all the HHA sights are made from 6061 aluminum, so again they're going to be extremely durable, very rugged, and they're also backed with their 100% lifetime warranty. So if you happen to break, damage this sight, you will be able to get it repaired or fixed, and HHA is saying that they will get that replacement or that fixed sight back to you within 48 hours once they receive it. Now the HHA RYZ is a double pin vertical sight, like we mentioned. It is a slider sight, so you're going to have the ability to shoot those long ranges, but keep in mind those pins are fixed. And what I mean by that is if you have your top pin at 20 yards, your bottom pin is not going to fall on that next 10-yard increment. It'll most likely fall on an odd number or a weird number like 35, 36, or 37, and that's all going to be dictated off of your bow speed, arrow weight, and draw length. Now to me, I do really like having 10-yard increment pins. It removes the need to pin gap, but you still can get very proficient with this sight. Obviously, you're just going to want to practice with your equipment in the off season. So when you're in a hunting situation, you know that pin gap, you know where to place that bottom pin if that animal happens to make a move on you while you're at full draw. Now the HHA RYZ also has their armored pin technology, which is protecting those fibers in that scope housing. So if you happen to catch a stick going through the bow sight, you're not going to have to worry about fracturing or breaking those fibers or bending that post. So again, extremely rugged and durable sight. Now the HHA RYZ also comes with their mechanical rheostat technology, which basically allows you to control the pin brightness. So if you're in an area that's heavily shaded, basically you can just open up this housing, allow more light in on those fibers, and then vice versa. If you're in an area that has limited amount of shading, you can always dial this thing back down and reduce that pin glow. Now the HHA RYZ sight straight out of the box is going to come standard with a top green pin. You can custom order this and get the bottom pin in either red or yellow, and then you can also, if you custom order this, you can dictate whether you want a 19 thousandths pin or a 10 thousandths pin. Now this sight is going to be available in multiple mounting configurations. You can get the fixed mount, which I have here. They also have two different dovetails that you can buy. They have a long one that gives you adjustment range from 4 to 7 inches, and then there's a shorter version that gives you adjustment from 4 to 5 inches. Both of those dovetails are going to be compatible with the Matthews bridge lock on the V3X, and then also the new Phase 4. And then lastly, they do have the Hoyt Picatinny rail mount, so you guys will be able to choose from those. Now, as far as the sight configuration, it is going to be available in the Tetra and also the Tetra Max. Now, the benefit of the Max is that you do have the ability to swap out this yardage wheel. When you purchase it, it actually does come with a spare one, but if you want to run another one, you can buy these from your local bow shop like Sunrise Archery or HHA directly for an additional 20 bucks. Now the benefit of the Max over the Tetra is if you like to run multiple arrow setups, you'll be able to just swap out these roller wheels and not have to worry about resighting in every single time you change that arrow configuration, which is an extremely nice benefit with the Max. Now let's talk about some of these these features because, like I said, there are some things about this sight that makes it very unique when you compare it to a black gold or a Spott Hogg. Now, first thing I want to say is you are going to get a first, second, and third axis adjustment with the HHA RYZ, and that's pretty common through all higher level bow sights that are available on the market. Now, what's really nice about the HHA, and then it's also on the black gold, is that they give you the ability to micro adjust that third axis. So you could really take a shot and then dial this thing in perfectly. Now, one of the more unique features about this sight that you're not going to find on some of the other sights that are available on the market is the fact that this sight has an infinite elevation adjust. And what I mean by that is on some of the black gold sights and then also the Spott Hogg sights, once you leave the bow shop, it does going to require a little bit of tinkering to figure out how to maximize your distance, especially if you start to shoot long range. Now, on a black gold and a Spott Hogg, a lot of times that is going to require you to unbolt the sight and then move the sight up or down. Now, the downside to doing that is each time you do it, you do have to redial in your second axis. Now, if you have a bow vise, not a big deal, right? You can just do it at home. But if you're like me, you don't have one, unfortunately, you got to go all the way back out to the bow shop. Now, with the HHA RYZ and their infinite elevation adjust, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So once you leave the bow shop, you got your first, second, and third axis dialed in. You can basically just unlock these screws and you can adjust this sight to get that top pin dialed in at 20 or 30 yards. So again, not having to constantly readjust that second axis every time you move that is a very nice benefit to have. Now, another really unique feature about this sight is the housing attachment point is a two-part design. Now, what is beneficial with that setup, definitely if you're like me and you want to play around with different scope housings like the Ultraview, you can go ahead, get this thing dialed in, get your second axis dialed in, and you can go ahead and remove this and add that Ultraview housing to it. Now, if you decide that you want to switch back, you can basically go ahead, re-put this back in, and again, you do not have to worry about redialing in your second axis. So this sight does give you a lot more freedom when compared to some of the other manufacturers that are available on the market. Now, this sight is also offering you a ton of travel as you start to slide up or down. You're going to get 2.1 inches of travel on this slider wheel, and this sight is also coming with the longest sight tapes that are available on the market straight out of the box. If you look at Spott Hogg, you look at Black Gold, even some of the Excel sights, all of their sight tapes are going to stop at that 100-yard mark. But like I said, HHA, you can get these that go all the way out to 145 yards, all the way out to 150 yards. Now, obviously, that is going to depend heavily on your setup and the amount of clearance that you have. But HHA is saying that they've spent like the last 2 to 3 years developing these sight tapes to ensure that they are extremely accurate. So I'm very curious as I get this thing sighted in and I switch over to the UV scope to see exactly how far I can get with a sight tape in a really light arrow. Now, what's also really nice about the HHA RYZ is the fact that once you get your first, second, third axis dialed in, you get your elevation dialed in, your left to right adjustment is actually a toolless adjustment. So you basically just have this lever here. You can go ahead and unloosen it, and you can micro adjust that housing in and out. And then if you need to make any type of drastic adjustments, they do have this rod here that you can go ahead and push. Now, what's nice about that rod is it does have grooves on it, so you're not going to be able to accidentally over adjust, and then once you get this dialed in, you basically just go ahead, tighten this thing back down, and you are ready to rock. Now, another really nice feature about this sight is the fact that this slider wheel is extremely nice, man. This thing is very fluid, very little resistance to get this thing to go up and down as you're adjusting your yardage, and then it also does give you the ability to lock this wheel out. But I can tell you right now, you could shoot this sight, leave that wheel unlocked. You don't have to worry about any type of levers slapping up against the siding of the housing as you're shooting with that thing unlocked. And then if you want to go ahead and lock it in place, you have that ability too. Now, another really nice feature about the HHA RYZ is they are compatible with the Ultraview scopes. So the pin gap on the HHA RYZ is identical to an Ultraview scope, either their smaller housing or their bigger housing. So you can transition between those two, and the pin gap is going to be identical. So again, talking about my intent with this sight is I do plan to run this as a target setup. I plan to get the smaller Ultraview housing and put this on this sight, and then run this as my 3D and total archery challenge setup. I am going to run a lighter arrow to get the most amount of clearance that I possibly can. So I'm hoping that with that setup, I'll be able to get out to about 130 yards and still have an indicator or a yardage marker when I do that. And then, like I said, the benefit about having the Max is I could transition back to this housing in a hunting situation, or if I decide I want to run a heavier arrow, all I got to do is swap out this yardage wheel, and then if I want to transition between those two arrows, I'll be able to do so very easily. Now, when talking about price of this sight, it is pretty expensive, but it's to be expected when you start shopping for a higher end bow sight. But you can pick up the HHA RYZ Tetra at Sunrise Archery for $299, and then you can also pick up the HHA RYZ Tetra MAX for $419. Now, for those that have already reached out to me, I do have plans on doing a side-by-side comparison of the Tetra RYZ and then also the black gold dual track. I want to give you guys my honest feedback on both of those sights. Obviously, you guys know I'm a huge fan of black gold sights, but like I said, there are a lot of things that are available on the RYZ which you will not find on black gold or Spott Hogg. So this sight is definitely one that I would highly recommend that you guys check out. I think that this is going to be an excellent sight. I'm very excited to run this as my target setup for 3D and total archery challenge. I'm very excited that they have these extended yardage wheels, and the biggest thing for me is not having to constantly redial in that second axis as I change my setup from the HHA scope to the Ultraview scope and vice versa, going back and forth. So other than that, if you guys have any other questions about this sight, you can always leave me a comment below. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, especially if you guys want to see that side-by-side comparison of the HHA RYZ and the black gold dual track. But other than that, make sure you guys go over to Michigan Ambush Outdoors, check out the merch that we have available. Your guys' purchases of that merch greatly supports this channel, keeps us doing what we're doing. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you on the next one.